After my husband's passing, an incredible $6 million inheritance revealed a shocking family secret. Sarah's world tilted on its axis the moment the lawyer laid the envelope in front of her. An unreal amount of money had materialized from nowhere, dragging with it a legacy she had never known existed. The sun had barely risen over Oak Ridge that morning, yet Sarah felt as though a storm was brewing inside her, dark clouds of confusion and disbelief swirling around her heart. For nearly a decade, her life revolved around her nursing duties and the tender chaos of raising her 2 children. She had married Dave for his kindness rather than stature, finding comfort in their shared aversion to greed. Now, with its heavy weight sealed within that envelope, she questioned everything she thought she knew about the man she loved. The unthinkable thoughts rumbled in her mind like a distant thunder. How could Dave keep something so monumental hidden? As she sorted through the legal documents in her cramped office, a shiver crept down her spine. The artful signature of an estranged family member, accompanied by whispers of a scandal involving Dave's father, painted a portrait of denial and loss. Through careful words woven into the documents, she unearthed a shocking backstory, revealing a family that had chosen wealth over him. A gnawing pit formed in her stomach. In that moment, the life they had built together blurred, exposing fractures she had never noticed. Sarah pressed her palms against the desk, half tempted to push the papers away. Could she honor the humble life Dave lived, or was it her duty to uncover the truth for the sake of their children? They adored their father, saw him as a superhero. Nothing but love and dedication radiated from him. How could she reconcile their visions of him with this hidden legacy? A complicated web of loyalty and love began tangling in her heart. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. She scoured through the letters, trying to connect the strands of family history that had eluded her. With each page, the freedom she used to feel in routine was replaced by an unsettling, aching desire to create something beautiful. What was once her lost dream of becoming an artist was slowly resurfacing. Wouldn't that be a betrayal? To embrace this new life while still grappling with Dave's values? Sarah's fingers itched for the paintbrush, the vibrant colors whispering promises of release as sharp as the guilt prickling at her conscience, yet, the tension tightened with every unanswered question. What judgment would come from neighbors who had witnessed her humble life, only to find secrets lurking beneath the surface? And the children, how could she shield them from this? The sensation of loss clawed at her throat, leaving her breathless as the burdens of past and potential future tangled into a single, insufferable knot. Just when she thought she might find clarity in the chaos, a chilling envelope slipped through her door, turning the tides further into turmoil. Reading the closing lines ignited an internal catastrophe, spiraling her into a maelstrom of uncertainty and dread. Could this inheritance be a blessing or a curse? And what sacrifices would revealing the truth demand upon her fragile heart? Sarah felt the walls closing in, a weight she couldn't shake. Choices seemed to loom larger than life, and the pressure bore down on her, relentless, as the echoes of that one sentence rang hollow in her ears. An inheritance worth exploring, yet perhaps leading only to destruction. As the sun dipped beyond the horizon, shadows crept into Sarah's once bright world as night approached. The kitchen table, usually cluttered with family projects and school papers, felt more like a battleground, strewn with the remnants of her unraveling life. Flashes of vibrant color, a palette, sketches haunted her thoughts. The seduction of art whispered sweetly, yet a cloud of regret settled thickly around her. The turns in her reality lay heavy on her heart. The day's torment swirled in her mind like a storm, questions raging against the walls she'd built to protect herself and her children. Was the inheritance truly a hidden gift, or was it a doorway into a realm of darkness she couldn't comprehend? Her fingers drummed nervously against the table, the rhythmic pulse leaving her disquieted. With each second, a ripple of determination grew alongside fear. The truth about Dave's past gnawed relentlessly at her. Perhaps it was time to investigate, to confront what had been buried. Tension wound tightly in her chest. Would honoring his memory mean to expose the pain of his lineage? She felt disoriented, torn between the loyalty she owed to the father of her children and the drive to redefine her identity with newfound clarity and empowerment. Motivated by a budding sense of agency, Sarah began to outline a plan. She would call the estranged family members mentioned in the documents. Yes, it was a gamble. The very idea made her stomach flip, but she craved knowledge. It felt like the only way to formulate a path forward. The thrill of uncovering her husband's roots stirred something long dormant within her. Would this journey help her reclaim her creative aspirations while staying true to her values? Amidst creating an outline of questions for family conversations, Sarah felt a flicker of joy shooting through her, illuminating the corners of her grief. Each question written was a step toward taking back control. She would confront the lies and half-truths lingering in silence. She was determined to bathe in the light of her husband's truth no matter how painful it might be. Setting the papers aside, Sarah's gaze fell onto an old sketchbook tucked under the table. Seizing it, she opened the pages, revealing a cacophony of colors and emotions, an imprint of the woman she once hoped to be. Her fingers brushed the drawings, as sparks of inspiration ignited. Perhaps she wouldn't be betraying Dave if she chose to pursue her dreams. Rather, she could honor him by becoming the person he always believed she could be. The idea solidified, she would resume painting. With each stroke, she would process her grief and her burgeoning revelations surrounding Dave's hidden legacy. Art could serve as her mirror, a bridge connecting the past with the uncertain future. But the challenge loomed before her like an open ocean. Would she have what it took to withstand the tides of what lay ahead? Just as adrenaline surged through her veins with purpose, Sarah received a message on her phone, vibrating insistently on the table. A number she didn't recognize. Heart pounding, she answered, her breath catching in her throat. "Sarah?" The voice queried, laced with urgency. "It's Oliver. We need to talk. There's something I discovered about Dave. Something important." With that, she felt a shiver run down her spine. The journey she'd barely begun had already taken a turn deeper into the unknown, and her resolve strengthened. Did this lead hold the key to unraveling the truth, or would it shatter everything she thought she knew? The storm within her continued to brew as she prepared for what lay ahead. Every word Oliver spoke wrapped around Sarah like a vice, tightening with each revelation that slipped through the line. She felt the weight of Dave's hidden past pressing down upon her, urging her to listen closely, to absorb every detail. "It's about his family," Oliver continued, breaking her momentary silence. "They weren't just distant relatives. They have connections to someone in our town, someone who can explain everything." Her mind raced, torn between curiosity and apprehension. The very idea that Dave may have woven a fabric of secrets into their lives sent her reeling. The inheritance, which she thought he'd worked so hard to secure for their family, now felt tainted by untold stories waiting to be unraveled. "What do you mean?" Sarah questioned, her skin prickling with anxiety. "What kind of connections?" "Look, it's complicated. It's best if we meet in person." "Can you do that?" There was a weight to his words, an urgency she could not ignore. Something told her that this meeting might be the catalyst she needed, not just for understanding Dave, but for transforming her own life. "Yeah, of course," she said, resolving to meet him at their favorite coffee shop the following morning. As she set down the phone, thoughts swirled like a tempest, colliding with her newfound ambition. Could confronting the dark edges of Dave's life illuminate her path as an artist? What if this discovery opened doors to her creativity, offering her not just solace but a means to process her grief? Painting had always been an intimate reflection of her innermost self. Now it begged for attention once more, pulling her closer to the canvas. That night, sleep eluded her. The specter of her husband's concealed history haunted the corners of her mind, igniting an insatiable desire for truth. She found herself pacing the floor as she fought against the waves of memories, thoughts of the vibrant laughter of their children mingling with bitterness, those joyful moments now juxtaposed with a haunting uncertainty. Dawn broke, and a sense of urgency propelled her out of bed. Before heading to meet Oliver, she resolved to paint. Standing before the easel, she dipped her brush into shades of blue and black, a reflection of her inner turmoil. Each brushstroke served as catharsis, releasing pent-up emotions like steam from a boiling kettle. The canvas became a vessel of her anxiety and hope, as colors blended and collided, mirroring her journey. Later, the clattering of dishes and muted conversations at the coffee shop faded away as Sarah focused on Oliver. He sat across from her, his face a mask of concern and determination. "Sarah, I can't stress enough how critical this is. Your husband wasn't just an average guy. There are facets of his life that he never shared." As he spoke, she noted details, forming an inkling of the chaos surrounding her husband's legacy. But deeper worries bubbled underneath. Could she handle the truth? What if it shattered her carefully constructed life, her children's? Still, the prospect of facing the unknown resonated within her. "Do I need to prepare?" she asked, her heart thumping in her chest. Oliver leaned forward, nodding gravely. "You'll need to be strong. The truth may not only change how you view Dave, but it might impact everything, including what you owe to yourself." For the first time, Sarah recognized the paradox resting in her journey. It wasn't merely about her husband's past, it was about her future. She would confront whatever lay ahead, shedding layers of fear that bound her to uncertainty. But then a chilling thought struck. What if the truth wasn't just an emotional burden to carry, but also a responsibility to unravel? Would she find the strength among the wreckage? As the conversation deepened, the revelation hung in the air like charged electricity, and her heart beat in anticipation of the answers. Would she emerge whole, or would this unravel the very tapestry of her identity? With a firm grip on her resolve, she prepared to face the shadows of Dave's lineage. The threshold of discovery loomed before her, waiting for her to step through. The moment of truth had begun, and with it, the narrative of Sarah's rebirth had irrevocably shifted. The stakes were now higher than ever, and as the gatherings of secrets came together, she felt an urge to dive deeper, but as she left the coffee shop, a single question reverberated in her mind. Was she ready to conquer the past, or would it consume her? The moment Sarah stepped outside, the brisk air hit her like a wave, revitalizing her senses. She inhaled deeply, letting the chill sharpen her focus as Oliver's words echoed relentlessly. She was unsteady on her feet, a woman standing at the precipice of a chasm. Her very identity was poised to shift fundamentally, and the fear that clutched at her heart morphed into something else: determination. The world around her buzzed with life, completely unaware of the storm brewing within. Each passerby was lost in their routine, while she felt distinctly out of sync. Their mundane concerns contrasted sharply with the monumental upheaval she faced. Yet, she had a choice to make: sink into despair or use this turmoil as a catalyst for change. She turned back briefly, glancing at the coffee shop's window where she had just shared such an intense moment with Oliver. The weight of his presence lingered in the air, like a fading echo demanding her to act. Strength wasn't simply about facing Dave's past, it was also about seizing her future. What had she been waiting for? Years of worry and self-doubt gnawed at her, keeping her tethered to a life that felt stagnant. The thought revived her passion for painting. It pulsed like a heartbeat, summoning her toward the studio. Perhaps she could channel her shock into her art. Armed with clarity from her revelation, she needed to confront the emotions building within her and transform them into something tangible. The brush could help her execute a narrative of her own choosing, free from the limitations imposed by grief. Once she arrived at her studio, a small but vibrant space filled with colors and chaos, she was met with the familiar scent of paint and turpentine. As she opened her paint tubes, she felt an inkling of freedom surge. Each squeeze of color into her palette became a declaration. She would not let Dave's secret suffocate her. Her movements were swift and decisive. Blues and blacks that once manifested her sorrow now entwined with hues of hopeful gold and vibrant red. She began to layer the colors, allowing them to flow and collide, creating a wound that, while raw, whispered of healing. The canvas transformed into an expression of her journey, not just of loss, but of potential discovery. She wanted not only to uncover the shadows of Dave's past but to emerge reborn, to reclaim the narrative of her life. Hours faded into one another as she lost herself in the rhythm of creation. Each stroke was a release. Questions turned into art as the canvas absorbed her fears, her anxieties, her longing for answers. She envisioned the moments Oliver had described, the connections, the hidden truths all swirling around her brush, a chaotic dance of light and darkness. Just when she felt she could touch clarity, the buzz of her phone jolted her out of her reverie. It was a message from Oliver, succinct but charged. We've found someone who knows more about Dave's family. We need to meet tonight. The invitation lit a fire inside her, igniting both exhilaration and panic. Was she ready to explore the shadows, or would they swallow her whole? She wrestled with the decision. The truth turned ominous now, a double-edged sword that could cut through the facade she had built. With determination welling within, she responded, "I'll be there." As the message sent, she felt the gravity of the impending meeting settle heavily on her shoulders. Yet deep down, a newfound resolve flourished. This was her descent into the unknown, a fate she had no intention of shying away from. That night, she stood with her heart racing, poised to dive into the depths of Dave's past. The memories clawed at her insides, but she had to confront them. This was about who she was, and perhaps more importantly, who she could become. As she prepared to leave the studio, her mind raced with questions. What truths would she uncover? And would her bravery yield retrieval of her lost self, or doom her to an endless cycle of grief? The answers felt both terrifying and alluring, and as she stepped over the threshold into the night, one thing became painfully clear: the shadows awaited. Would she emerge victorious, or crumble under the weight of secrets revealed? Sarah's breath hitched as she approached the small cafe where she was to meet Oliver. The neon sign flickered above her, unpredictable, much like her own emotions. A blend of excitement and trepidation surged within her, an unsettling yet invigorating concoction that marked a shift. Life had tilted curiously on its axis since she learned of Dave's family secrets, dragging her into an abyss she could no longer ignore. Pushing through the door, she was met with the warm hum of conversation, the rich smell of coffee, and the gentle murmur of clinking cups. As she scanned the room, her search for Oliver ended when their eyes met. He was seated at the back corner, marking time by staring down at his phone, his face stark with concentration. For a moment, she envied his ability to appear so resolute. Steeling herself, Sarah made her way over. Each step felt like crossing a threshold into another world, one filled with potential answers and buried truths. She slid into the seat across from him, and a fraction of her bravado slipped away. Immediately, she noticed the lines of exhaustion etched on his face, eyes heavy with the weight of a revelation. "Thank you for coming," he began, his voice low but urgent. "What we've uncovered could change everything." The words trailed off into silence, and Sarah felt the air grow thick between them. She swallowed hard, her heart thumping against her ribs as she asked, "What do you mean? What did you find?" He pushed his phone across the table, revealing a document filled with names and dates, an intricate web of transactions linked to Dave's family. It was overwhelming. Each name, each figure felt like a ghost whispering from the past. There's a large inheritance tied to these people. Millions, Sarah. But who they are and what this means, it's complicated. The mention of money momentarily distracted her from the gravity of the situation. This was not just about money, it was a tether to Dave's existence, a life she had thought she fully understood. Now it crumbled beneath her, braving shadows of doubt about their relationship. "I don't understand," she said, voice quivering while she tried to lock her mind into clarity. "Why didn't he tell me about this?" Oliver leaned forward, intensity radiating from him. "I don't think he knew how. He kept this hidden for a reason. There are dark undertones in his family's history, things he must have wanted to protect you from." As Sarah sifted through the implications, dread turned to resolve within her. Her memories of Dave became a fog, littered with questions. Why had he chosen silence? Not just about the money, but about who he had been underneath it all. It felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. The abyss called her, hinting at both clarity and destruction. "I need to know," she breathed, "who these people are. And why he kept this from me. We can find out together, but it won't be easy. Are you ready for this?" His question hung heavy in the air. Did she dare to disembark on this perilous path? Her fear twisted with a surge of courage. She had already faced loss, so why not face the unknown? "Together," she reiterated, her voice steadier now. "I'm ready." The grim determination surfaced, rooting her in place. This journey would demand everything: her emotional strength, her sense of self, and her trust in Oliver. But she had to unearth the truth, no matter how deep the pain ran. As they began discussing the next steps, Sarah felt the familiar rhythm of her artistry echo in her heart. This was not just confrontation, it was creation. A new narrative awaited her, one where she could redefine and reclaim her story beyond grief and loss. Suddenly, her phone buzzed in her pocket, disrupting the moment. It was a message from an unknown number. Her pulse quickened as she read, "I know what you're looking for. Meet me tomorrow. You'll want to hear what I have to say." With that single cryptic message, the path ahead twisted sharply, pulling her deeper into the underbelly of Dave's past. Shadows loomed, but she was no longer merely a bystander. She was committed to unveiling the truth, whatever it may bring. Would it lead her to the answers she sought or plunge her deeper into the darkness? The sun dipped low in the sky the next day, casting long shadows across Sarah's apartment as she prepared for her impending meeting. The message from the unknown sender clung to her mind like a whisper that refused to fade. Each possible scenario played out before her. What if this person knew everything? What if they were the key to unlocking the secrets she desperately sought? Her artistic instinct stirred uneasily, urging her to sketch out potential outcomes with frantic strokes of confidence and anxiety. Dressed in her favorite navy blue dress, she caught a glimpse of herself in the hallway mirror. The reflection was strong and determined, but beneath the polished surface, a tumult of uncertainty roiled. Would she be stepping into a trap, or an opportunity? Even as Oliver's reassurances echoed in her thoughts, she couldn't shake the tension tightening around her. Arriving at the meeting point, a dim alley known for its eclectic mix of street art and hidden cafes, Sarah's heart began to race. She found a narrow table with a single empty chair, the sign of unfiltered conversations and unearthing truths. She waited, resting her hands anxiously on the cool metal surface. For a moment, reality blurred, and she could hear the chorus of questions swirling in her mind. Who was this person? What could they possibly tell her that would change everything? The soft scuff of shoes on pavement drew her attention. A figure emerged from the shadows, their face framed by a dark hoodie. As they approached, Sarah's pulse quickened. She squinted, trying to make out their features. "Sarah?" The figure spoke, their voice low but steady. "Yes," she replied, unwilling to let her fear fracture her composure. "I'm Jordan. I know why you're here." As they spoke, Sarah realized that Jordan was not just a stranger thrumming with mysteries, they were also burdened by the weight of knowledge. They leaned in closer, eyes darting around as though checking for eavesdroppers. "Dave's family isn't what you think. They've hidden truths for years. Not just about the money, but about who he really was." With bated breath, Sarah leaned forward, straining to absorb every word. "What do you mean? What truths?" "The inheritance connects to a darker past. You're not the only one interested in unraveling Dave's story," Jordan explained, pulling out a worn folder from their bag. "There are people who would rather keep this buried. You have to be careful." Jordan's warning bore into her psyche, igniting a dual sense of fear and empowerment. This was not just about money, it was a matter of legacy, loyalty, and protection. Would they be willing to sacrifice everything to keep their secrets intact? Sarah pondered how far she was willing to go in search of the truth. As Jordan divulged details, Sarah felt a surge of clarity wash over her. The pieces of the puzzle began to mold together, revealing a tapestry of deceit intricately woven into Dave's family history. It was infuriating to learn how many layers of lies had existed, but it was also liberating. She was gaining insight and agency, shedding the victim she had been since his passing. With each new revelation, she found herself discovering the depths of her resilience. She had never seen herself as a fighter, yet here she was, unwilling to back down. Instead, a burning determination unlocked latent strengths she hadn't known she possessed. Sarah felt as if she were assuming the role of her own protagonist, ready to reclaim her narrative and stand firm against the shadows. As the conversation wound down, Jordan handed her the folder. "This is just the beginning," they murmured, their eyes serious. "Be careful when you dig, the truth may cut deeper than you expect." With the folder clutched firmly in her hands, Sarah realized that her journey had transformed from seeking clarity to safeguarding her newfound quest. Before she could respond, Jordan slipped back into the shadows, leaving her alone with the weight of their exchange. On her walk back home, she evaluated the documents filled with names and dates. A roadmap of discovery lay before her. What risks lay ahead? She would need allies, someone to help her navigate the treacherous waters of her husband's family's past. Her resolve hardened as she thought of Oliver. He had become her confidant on this unpredictable journey, and she knew he would be essential in the days to come. As she rounded the corner toward her apartment, something flickered in her mind. A nagging question persisted. What if uncovering the truth shattered not only her understanding of Dave but also her very identity? The storm of thoughts overtook her, and she steeled herself for the confrontation that may lie ahead. She entered her apartment, the ticking clock reminding her of time's relentless march. The inquiry would demand fortitude beyond even her current limits. With the folder open on her kitchen table, she locked eyes with the pages that held both promise and peril. The journey had only just begun, and with deep breaths, Sarah understood that she would not run from the shadows any longer. The moment had come to face the family's secrets as she searched for answers. But lurking in the back of her mind remained a lingering thought: what if Dave's past held secrets that could alter her future in ways she couldn't yet comprehend? Her resolve ignited, she prepared to dive even deeper into the enigma of Dave's life, knowing she was inching closer to unmasking truths that would irrevocably change everything. The shadows were thickening, and the time had come to face what lay beneath the surface. The folder lay open in front of Sarah, its contents revealing snippets of a past long buried. The names and dates blurred together as her mind raced. This was more than just information, it was a key to unlocking everything she thought she knew. Every line breathed life into the complexities of Dave's family dynamics, each fact like a puzzle piece that begged placement in a larger picture. But where did she fit into this intricate tapestry of intrigue? With determination coiling in her gut, she set her mind on a singular goal: clarity. Shoving aside the remnants of fear, she grabbed a notepad and started transcribing the important details, her fingers moving faster than her thoughts. The act of writing grounded her, transformed her reckless anxiety into a tangible strategy. It was a direct counter to the chaos that had come to define her life after Dave's passing. She browsed through Jordan's notes, the stark nature of the text prickling her palms. Hidden wealth, shady dealings, whispers of familial betrayal. How had she been blind to such depth? Each revelation acted as a cold splash of water, awakening her resolve. The very notion that Dave's family could have been ensconced in duplicity ignited both a sense of purpose and a headache that threatened to overwhelm. What was her ultimate aim? Was it merely to confront the uncomfortable truth, unveil the shadows, or to reclaim her own narrative? The fog of uncertainty ebbed, revealing the rise of an unexpected adversary, her own fear of the unknown. The journey would likely test her in ways she could not yet imagine. She would need to cultivate alliances and navigate treachery. Before calling Oliver, a conscious breath steadied her racing heart. He would not only be a sounding board but an essential partner in this labyrinth of deceit. His unflinching support had been a lifeline through her grief. Yet, she hesitated. Could he handle the weight of these revelations? Would the truth disrupt their fragile balance and fracture trust? Gripping the phone tightly, she steeled herself against the pull of doubt. She dialed his number, each ring taunting her resolve. What if he withdrew? What if her revelations placed a rift between them? But confronting uncertainty had become her new norm, and she refused to allow alarmist thoughts to sabotage her progress. Oliver, she greeted, refusing to let the quaver in her voice betray her uncertainty. I need to talk to you about Dave's family. It's more intricate than I thought. There was a pause before he responded, impulse laced with familiarity. I'm listening. She poured out her findings, each piece falling into place, but she was careful to frame the narrative in a way that invited collaboration rather than fear. As she spoke, Sarah's anxiety slowly transformed into a resolute determination. She was reclaiming the narrative. In Oliver's supportive interjections, words turned into a scaffold upon which she could now build her understanding. I don't think it's simply about the money, she concluded, her voice gaining traction. It's about a much deeper betrayal, a legacy built on lies. Silence hung in the air, thick with contemplation. Finally, he spoke. Are you sure you want to dig deeper into this? It could turn dangerous. Dangerous or not, I won't shy away anymore, she declared, her conviction solidifying like steel. The past had been haunting her, but now, as a whispering strength burgeoned inside her, she took ownership of her journey. After their conversation, she turned back to the folder, her resolve steeled. Sarah began crafting a plan, mapping out her next steps with newfound clarity. She wouldn't merely react, she would anticipate. She remembered Jordan's warning, feeling its weight intensify. The growing tension ignited a wildfire of ambition as she recognized that unearthing these truths required a careful balance of finesse and courage. Would her inquiries lead to revelation or backlash? The stakes had shifted dramatically, and she could almost feel the pressure of unseen eyes watching from the shadows. With a jolt, she realized she needed to confront the family directly. This was no longer solely about unearthing hidden truths, it was about taking back her agency. What if their fear of exposure pushed them into erratic decisions? Complications swirled, but her conviction only strengthened. She would face whatever consequences came. As she stepped out into the night, the cool air whipped against her skin, tightening her focus. The streetlights flickered with possibility, and she understood this was a critical moment in her evolution. With a deep breath, she murmured to herself, "The time has come to face what lies beneath." But beneath that resolve simmered a pulse of exhilaration bordering on dread. What truths would she unearth that could change everything she believed about her life and herself? The path unfurled before her, and each step echoed with potential. Would she embrace what waited in the dark? As she moved away from her apartment, Sarah felt a distinct shift in her perception. The night air was crisp, each breath a reminder of the new chapter she was forging. There was a clarity settling over her, a stark contrast to the chaos that had clouded her life since Dave's death. The revelations swirled in her mind, mixing with a growing sense of power. This time, she was not merely a victim of her circumstances, she was an agent of change. She headed to a local cafe that had always provided her with a sense of comfort, an anchor in turbulent waters. The slight ding of the bell as she entered became a personal marker. She was here to strategize, to reshape her destiny. Settling into a corner booth, she pulled out the folder and spread its contents across the table. Each page symbolized layers of deception and stories waiting to be unraveled. This was more than an investigation, it was an assertion of her place in a family saga that attempted to erase her. The barista ambled over with a familiar smile, delivering her usual drink without her needing to speak. In moments like these, Sarah appreciated the fleeting normality, even as her mind whirred with tension. Warmth radiated from the cup, grounding her thoughts. The caffeine acted as fuel, igniting an internal determination that demanded action. Looking through the notes again, she began outlining her approach. The folder functioned both as an obsession and a map guiding her through uncharted territory. She needed to understand the motivations behind each individual she would confront. Fear, jealousy, loyalty, what could drive them to protect secrets so fierce? With every line she traced during her mental planning, her instincts sharpened. This was not just about gathering evidence, it was about rewriting the narrative. As she drafted questions and potential dialogues, she felt the slight tremble of doubt flicker within her. What if their responses pushed her into a corner she couldn't navigate? Each thought was a digital cue composing a symphony of potential outcomes, their dissonance a reminder of risk. But Sarah was no stranger to risk. Dave had always encouraged her to tackle challenges head-on, and it was time to honor that ethos. She shook off the self-doubt, returning her focus to the task at hand. Just then, her phone buzzed on the table, jolting her back to the present. It was a message from Oliver. "Are we meeting tomorrow?" The simplicity of the text struck her, the necessity of balance between the investigations and maintaining their relationship. What if unveiling the truth pushed him away rather than drawing them closer? Uncertainty rattled against her confidence, but she decided then and there, clarity required difficult conversations. "Let us meet," she typed back, adding the cafe's address. Their partnership had weathered Dave's death, and now it would need to address entering this murky territory together. She felt the weight of unspoken fears and shared history in her decision. As the conversation flowed with Oliver the next day, she prepared for the delicate navigation ahead. Would he be supportive as she faced the family? Could she lean into his insight without diluting the urgency of her mission? Sarah's conviction had taken root, but she resolved to ground herself in their mutual understanding, knowing full well that facing the family demanded unity. The meeting was charged, Oliver arrived synchronizing warmth and skepticism. She shared everything: the documents, suspicions, and her intention to confront the family. His thoughts drifted into the possibility of opposition. You might be stepping into a hornet's nest, Sarah. They won't go down quietly if they feel threatened. I know, she answered, feeling her heart race as they discussed it. But if I don't take this step, I'll always wonder what could have been. I have to know if your warnings are warranted or if I'm just multiplying my fears. Oliver's gaze was piercing, as if analyzing the depths of her resolve. No one knows them but you. You should trust your instincts. They're taking a risk too, buried. Secrets have a way of bubbling to the surface. The evening wore on, and as she debated reaching out to the family, her resolve hardened. Each necessary action kindled something fierce within her, an unrelenting objective to uncover the truth, to reclaim her voice amidst the thunderous silence Dave's legacy had trapped her in. Tomorrow, she would initiate contact, pushing against every limiting belief that whispered from the shadows. As she left the cafe, determination surged once more, merging with a spurt of anxiety. Uncertainty loomed large ahead, but Sarah was ready to confront the secrets waiting on the other side. What could their reaction reveal about her connection with them? What hidden truths lay just beneath the surface, waiting for her to unveil? The morning sun spilled through Sarah's bedroom window, awakening the day with a golden hue that felt too soft against the hard reality she was confronting. As she dressed, each piece of clothing she put on felt weightier, like armor against the emotional onslaught that awaited her. Today, she would make her first overture to her family, and the thought sent electric pulses of anxiety coursing through her. Her mind raced with what-ifs. What if they pushed back? What if they turned her away? Yet another thought emerged, stronger than the fear. What if they welcomed her with open arms? She found herself standing in front of the mirror, scrutinizing every aspect of her reflection. Was she the strong woman she intended to be, the one Dave would have admired? Or had the years of suppression chipped away at her resolve? After a cup of coffee that felt more like liquid courage than a morning ritual, Sarah sat at the table with the folder that had become her lifeline. She took a deep breath, focusing on the strategies baked into her notes. The names written there felt like ropes connecting her to a treacherous mountain she was determined to climb. With every thicker strand she pulled family secrets and hidden assets. The weight of her task reminded her that she was not simply reclaiming her past, she was challenging the dynamics of a family that had always seen her as an outsider. The digital clock on the wall ticked steadily, reminding Sarah that time was moving forward, as she would have to. She gripped her phone tightly and dialed her father's number, heart pounding like a drum in a quiet room. The moment it rang, a surge of trepidation washed over her. Was she ready for whatever response he would give? Hello? His voice was a mixture of warmth and surprise, smoothing over the sharp edges of her apprehension. Hi, Dad. It's Sarah. The title felt foreign in her mouth, tinged with unfurling hopes. Can we talk? I've been wanting to discuss some things. After a brief pause, filled with an undercurrent of tension, he replied, Of course. When? Today? The word hung in the air like a challenge, demanding both courage and commitment from her. Sure. I'll be home after 6, he said, and the call ended. With it, a sense of inevitability unfurled. She was committed. The rest of the day felt surreal, a kaleidoscope of anxiety and determination. She imagined their conversation over and over, building scenarios in her mind. Her thoughts ricocheted between multiple paths, confrontation and embrace, clarity and chaos. While she was preparing to question her family about Dave's inheritance and the truths intertwined with it, she was also wrestling with her inner dialogue, how to approach the topic without losing herself, without exposing her heart too widely. Each hour dragged, but when 6 o'clock arrived, a settled resolve emerged. Arriving at her father's house felt monumental. Despite the increased heartbeat pounding in her chest, she hesitated at the door, hand poised to knock. Would they dismiss her? Would they acknowledge her pain and include her in their narrative? Grounding herself, Sarah finally completed the motion. The door opened to reveal her father's familiar but aging face, and she felt a rush of conflicted emotions. He eyed her, a flicker of uncertainty dancing in his expression. She half expected him to pull her into a warm embrace, but that old familiarity had dissolved into a thicker tension, something she had come to understand as unspoken guilt. "Come in," he said, stepping aside. The air felt thick with layers of history and silent betrayals. As she crossed the threshold, Sarah found herself in a room echoing with memories both cherished and fragmented. It was a juncture in her life she had not anticipated, standing in front of the family that had withheld so much, expecting her to simply fit back into the mold they had crafted without her. "Dad, I need to talk about," she began, her voice quivering, her confidence mingling uncertainly with vulnerability. And the response she received could either tether them together or irrevocably sever ties. Just as she began to share her feelings, the doorbell rang unexpectedly, a sudden reminder of the external world intruding into this crucial conversation. It prompted a jolt of tension. Who else could be complicating an already uncertain moment? As she turned her gaze toward the door, uncertainty consumed her. Whatever stood beyond that threshold could alter everything she had begun to unravel. As Sarah gathered her thoughts, the door swung open to reveal a tall figure with a familiar presence, Dave's estranged brother, Peter. The breath caught in her throat, and simultaneous shock and anxiety surged within her. How had he found her? Vital truths lurked beneath this unexpected encounter, yet the gravity of her situation shifted palpably. "Sarah?" Peter's voice was a mix of uncertainty and concern. "I am sorry for intruding. I thought it was important we speak." The unspoken words hung heavy in the air, lingering where she had expected to lay bare the truth only with her father. The intricacies of family ties were thick like molasses, yet this moment called for clarity. "Can we talk?" Peter's question cut through her uncertainty. "I promise it's important. Not just about Dave, but about everything you're uncovering." Just as her heart began to race with potential, her father's confusion flickered across his face, but he stepped aside, inviting Peter in. Sarah stood momentarily frozen, the clash of emotions swirling. Was this serendipity or merely another complication in her already chaotic quest? The weight of this additional revelation pressed upon her, but deep down, she felt resolve shatter the fear that once constricted her throat. She ushered them into the living room, urging her father to sit and preparing to balance honesty and confrontation. "Peter," she began, but Peter raised his hand gently, his eyes earnest. "Let me start, Sarah. I know this must be overwhelming," he admitted. "But if you're asking questions about Dave's family, you need to hear our side. I don't want you to feel like you're wading through all this alone." As he spoke, the dynamic shifted. She was no longer just deciphering her husband's hidden past but finding herself amidst an open narrative that sought warmth and understanding. Both men were encircled by shadows of silence that could only be pierced by vulnerability and trust. "What do you know about the inheritance?" she pressed, sensing her time to unravel the complexities approaching its pinnacle. Peter took a deep breath, his demeanor changing like a pendulum swinging to either honesty or guardedness. "Everything about our family is complicated. Dave hid a lot, not just for you but for himself. He was ashamed of our past and felt he had to own his decisions." The threads began to connect. The shame, the wealth, and the neglected truths formed the tapestry of their family's legacy. "What did he hide?" she pressed, her heart pounding in synchronization with Peter's words. "Everything else," he confessed. "We had lesser values than he portrayed. The inheritance wasn't just money, it was a binding contract to the past, to a family that turns its back on anyone who strays." With every exchanged sentiment, she felt herself reclaiming fragments of her lost identity. A radiant tapestry started weaving threads colored by courage. This was her moment to demonstrate the newfound strength she had cultivated throughout her journey. "David shouldn't have had to conceal who he was. That's not love," she affirmed, a quiet confidence bleeding into her voice. "I want to honor his memory, but first, I need to disentangle these lies." What she considered mere fuel for her artistic pursuits morphed into a fierce battle against the shadows that had left their imprint on every corner of her life. This was about so much more than financial inheritance or revelations. It was about forging her legacy apart from the suffering, about redefining herself in the only way she knew how, through the raw vigor of her own identity. "Maybe we can face this together," Peter suggested, his face a mixture of remorse and relief. "I have a stake in this too. I've been lost." An unexpected kinship simmered between them. They were no longer defined by the darkness enveloping Dave's secrets. They were approaching an alliance formed in shared pain, a chance to rewrite their narratives. Together, we can confront this. The version of our family rooted in lies has to end, Sarah declared, her hearts now swelling with vigor and anticipation. As they began to lay groundwork for their new journey, Sarah realized the course she had charted was more navigable with each passing moment. The emergence of new relationships and newfound respect birthed purpose within her, suggesting that the shadows could give way to the light. Hours passed as they formulated plans, and by the time twilight cascaded over Oak Ridge, Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment surging through her veins. The battle had begun. She would negotiate with her husband's family and emerge victorious, not just for him but for herself and her children. With newfound clarity and unyielding strength, Sarah stood at the crossroads, determined not to let the specters of her past consume her. For in discovering the truth, she was uncovering a legacy of resilience, and with each step forward, she was proud to embrace that with open arms. The taste of freedom lingered on her lips, a testament to the transformation she had undergone. That it was clear then she hadn't merely pivoted from pain to purpose. She had conquered her shadows and was adaptable to whatever came next. Together, they would create a new narrative, one that embodied fortitude and authentic family ties. As she ventured outside, the cool evening air invited renewal. Her spirits soared as she realized she was not defined by the legacy of sorrow, but by her strength, an artist ready to reclaim the brush and paint the colors of her existence with a bold stroke of realization. Now is the moment. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. You need to subscribe now to ensure you stay updated. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, as every click helps spread this powerful journey. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Your voice matters. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting our incredible community and this channel through these actions.